We're about a week away to the official start of summer, and it's feeling every bit of summer up there in Alaska. In fact, they've got heat advisories taking effect tomorrow for Fairbanks, Alaska, for the first time ever. And the heat is on into the desert Southwest. In fact, 110 plus as that heat ridge will be building and slowly shifting eastward as we progress throughout the week next week. If we take a look at the satellite picture this morning, we've got a couple convective complexes, one that's highlighted across Kansas, that's bringing numerous showers and thunderstorms for them. And we also have a boundary up there across portions of Ohio, as well as into Pennsylvania, getting into areas of the Northeast. Heavier rains will likely unfold later on this afternoon across Virginia and North Carolina. And then we also have some bubble up activity that's going to kind of form in the heat of the afternoon down there towards the coast and around the Houston area. And yes, what is this? Yeah, that is another tropical system out there in the Pacific. We keep naming these systems. In fact, Dahlia is the fourth name system of the year already in the Pacific. That's going to be no threat to land, but nonetheless, they just keep producing this conveyor belt of storms, and you can see one trailing behind this one. So it's getting off to be a very active start, at least in the Pacific, and we're still waiting for our first storm up there into the Atlantic. So if we take a look at the overall, national radar this morning, there's a couple areas that we're highlighting. First one that's highlighted over in Nebraska, as well as into Kansas. There is a little mesoscale convective system off the northwest flow that will continue to dive southeast, elevating those storms again and around the Oklahoma area towards Oklahoma City. Those will be slowly shifting southeast and weakening and basically fading out over time. And then we have that boundary across Cleveland as well as into Pittsburgh, getting up into upstate New York and along the coast and around the Boston region. And we'll be likely watching numerous showers starting to unfold and start to bubble up across the coastline, as well as further south around the I-10 corridor. And then we also have some more energy up and around Memphis this morning. So if we take a look at the setup for this afternoon, yes, just like what we saw yesterday, we're going to be seeing more storms form in the Montana region. We do have a slight risk for severe weather as storms form up here into central Montana and start diving southeast again. So those areas into South Dakota as well as into Nebraska, and eventually start to feel the effects, just like this morning that's happening in Kansas. We'll start to see more activity shifting further south as we get later on in the day into the overnight hours, and then we'll have more of a dry line type setup starting to unfold across areas of Texas. And it really doesn't shift too much tomorrow. We see more activity start to bubble up in a lot of the same areas across Montana and diving southeast again off that northwest flow, which is pretty prevalent this time of year in the month of June. And that ridge of high pressure that's going to be building out there into the desert Southwest will slowly start shifting. But I think by the time we head into Sunday night, those mesoscale convective complexes will likely continue and shift even a little bit further south. So now it's likely going to include portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex with some convective activity going into that Sunday night time frame. But overall, for the next 48 hours, kind of looks like this. We've got several systems that's going to be blowing up across Montana. Those will be traversing across the northwest flow. And man, look at Oklahoma again. They just get crushed as they get every single system. Unfortunately, we got more heavy rain for Tulsa, Oklahoma, more storms across the same region. And then we'll have flooding concerns that will likely start to take shape across Virginia and portions of North Carolina, and just kind of bubble up to activity across areas of the southeast, but especially down towards the Houston area later on today. But there's the ridge of high pressure. It means business so early. I mean, we're talking 110, even 114 tomorrow in the Phoenix region. So you're going to be feeling every bit like summer out there. Vegas in the 110 range. That heat will be expanding into New Mexico, and eventually there in West Texas, and it'll slowly start to build as we get throughout the week next week eastbound, and put more of these areas under that sinking air and kind of in the northwest flow, and put the more the storm threat further north into the central and northern plains. But before then, we've got a couple of mesoscale convective complexes to contend with. These are going to be forming in Montana, coming through down through the Rockies. You can see where these ribs start to take shape. Those are the higher winds, where the damaging winds, where these mesoscale convective systems start to kind of bow out, producing those higher wind gusts and the heavier rains. We'll see a couple of these, one across Nebraska and going through Kansas, and another one will set up shop across Oklahoma. Those are the ones that are likely going to be diving further south into portions of North Texas, likely later in the day on Sunday into the overnight hours. So over those next 48 hours with the radar, precipitation, the heavier amounts will likely be in Oklahoma, with lighter amounts as you shift further south, heavier amounts along the coast, and then there's some heavier rains, even some flooding rains across North Carolina into Virginia and portions of West Virginia, and even Pennsylvania will likely get on the action of some heavier rains and thunderstorms. But as we transition into next week, there is the ridge of high pressure that will be building, and they're going to be sharing some of that heat in the deserts and with those areas into New Mexico, and starting to get into portions of Texas, and eventually will take over into Oklahoma and start to end some of these storms. But I don't think it really gets going into maybe Tuesday, because that by Monday we'll have yet another complex that will be forming in the high plains. So it looks to be an active week with daily severe weather events, but this will likely keep pushing a little bit further north, which is usually pretty common this time of year. So we'll likely set up shop with back into Aberdeen, as well as into the Rapid City region, Sioux Falls, as well as into Minneapolis, with showers and thunderstorms likely turn severe towards that 5 o'clock time frame into the early evening. And then we just transition to more storms with very high Cape values unfolding on Tuesday in and around the Kansas region. We could be looking at some serious storms, some big time hail producers up there, and tornadic activity. So things are kind of lining up already for a very active week ahead. There's the boundary from the Storm Prediction Center, even 4 days out, already highlighted that slight risk likely east of Denver. There does include the North Platte region as what right now, Wichita, Topeka, Hastings, those areas in Omaha, as well as into Kansas City. Easily this will likely expand, but this could be a serious threat, especially for big time hail producers with those excessive Cape values, a ton of energy in the atmosphere to unload. And that is going to be bringing a deepening low pressure center as well. So you got the rain set up and the heavier showers and thunderstorms, likely some severe and some big time hail producers going into that Tuesday night, Wednesday, heading into Iowa. And that likely shifts further into Illinois with a deepening area of low pressure, setting up shop more into Iowa. Iowa's been missing out on a lot of the severe weather. I think you finally get into the action with more of the systems moving over in your neck of the woods, and then as well as into northern Illinois. You see a deepening low pressure setting up shop across there, as well as into Wisconsin. And there it is, even a day 5 risk going into Wednesday. The Storm Prediction Center already has that slight risk extending from Springfield to St. Louis, back into areas of Indianapolis, all the way up into Chicago. Does include the Grand Rapids region, at least right now. This will likely easily expand as we get further into the week, but you can definitely see we've got several days, if not 5 days ahead of active weather across the central and northern plains. So if you sum it up, kind of looks like this, right? Yeah, you can see where the ridge is right out west, where you got the ridge, where you're dry, you fry, and those temperatures are going to soar well above average temperatures across the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest, much of the desert Southwest, eventually extending into West Texas, Central Texas. You'll have a lot of sinking air. We'll watch these boundaries unfold, bringing some heavier rains, likely some flooding rains along the coast, heavier rains along the I-10 corridor. And then late in the period, heading into next weekend, we'll have to watch a tropical type moisture trying to get a little bit into the Bay of Campeche. That could elevate those storms and heavier rains, at least along the coastline. So you have to be watching out for that, because that looks to unfold possibly by next Friday or Saturday. That a system, I don't think it actually forms into something tropical, but at least it's going to bring some heavier rains for those areas along the coast, but especially there into the Brownsville region. So if you sum it up over the next 7 days, we've got the ridge of high pressure. That will be building across the desert Southwest. That will be slowly shifting eastbound. So what happens is that'll bring more sinking air and bringing the storm track further north. There's the cooler temperatures, complements of the rain for South Texas with that tropical moisture. But as the ridge of high pressure will slowly start to shift a little bit east, that will allow a trough to come into the Pacific Northwest. That will cool you guys down big time, but that won't happen until the middle to late next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update. Why I protect you before and after the storm.